Well, that was a whole ass day, wasn't it? First, they put a cap on how much GME stock you could buy. Then, they reset the value of the GME stock to what it was 2 days ago. Then, they started manually selling your GME stock. Something which should be illegal, but somehow isn't. You got rat-fucked by stockbrokers, by Robinhood, by the mainstream media, and by Joey Biden of all fucking people. And yet, in spite of all that, you still won. GME stock closed at 325 on Friday. The squeeze worked. Even with everything in their favor, even with Wall Street writing the rules, executing the rules, and the White House behind them, you still won. Not only did you win, but the closest thing to a win that the Wall Street fuckers got was a temporary mulligan. I think that it's worthwhile to try and figure out why this is, so that we can replicate victories going forward. Because I'm assuming that everyone just plans on going forward with this. Which I'm for. It's a good idea. Quick note before we really get started. This should not in any way be misconstrued as financial advice. I am not a legal financial fiduciary. I am not empowered to give financial advice. I am not even that good with money. I only have 23 cents in my bank account. But I am good at politics. And if you want someone to help you with politics, then maybe we can help each other. So take this however you will, but my read on this is that the primary reason that Wall Street was not able to stop Wall Street bets from fucking with everything is because they didn't think that this was a permanent problem, or that it would become a permanent problem. Basically, the power players in Wall Street think that everyone on the internet is spoiled millennial trash with the attention span of a fucking goldfish. And this tells of a profound misunderstanding of how everything went down. As I said in my last video, Wall Street Bets is acting as a collective, and in a collective you don't need everyone to be an expert. You only need a handful of experts to direct everyone else. And that's cool! The second reason that the rat fuckers at Wall Street weren't able to stop Wall Street Bets from fucking things up is because doing that would have required regulation. And the rat fuckers at Wall Street know that regulation is an existential threat to how they do business. I haven't been the only person to observe that the practice of shorting stocks has been one of the primary things keeping Wall Street afloat over the past 10 years or so. And that means that regulating short stocking, or anything related to shorting stocks, would have a drastic and a negative effect on the finances of Wall Street as a whole. And they can't be having that. There's a third reason, sort of a root reason. And it's a little more complicated to explain. It actually takes up half of the script I have now, so if you'll bear with me for a little bit. One of my favorite philosophers, and someone who's had an enormous impact on how I view the world, is a man named Douglas Rushkoff. Douglas Rushkoff is, amongst other things, a philosopher. He was one of the first people to start viewing old media in a modern lens, and one of the first people to start viewing new media and what it was capable of doing. And let me explain this person's impact on me like this. If I ever get around to making that gigantic sci-fi, fantasy, cyberpunk epic that I've been brewing around in my head for the past 10 years, it's going to be a mixture of the philosophy of Paul Brunton and the theories of Douglas Rushkoff. But for the purposes of this video, I'm not interested in either of those texts. I'm interested in an essay Douglas Rushkoff wrote called Survival of the Richest, which I'm going to link in a pinned comment below. In this essay, Rushkoff details the specifics of a meeting he had with a number of hedge fund managers, where said managers asked his advice on how to keep their employees compliant after a global catastrophe. According to Rushkoff, these stockbrokers were concerned with their survival after the event. Now, the nature of the event is unimportant. It could be something as fanciful as an AI uprising, or as down-to-earth as environmental catastrophe. It could even be a peasant uprising. And when I read about this, the thing that I thought was that the first event, the prototype of the event, is the atom bomb. Nuclear warfare. And something clicked in my head. Not enough people online talk about this, because really not enough people online lived through the Cold War. But to people who lived through the Cold War, nuclear Armageddon didn't just mean worldwide destruction. It also meant the collapse of capitalism. And when these stockbrokers talked about the event, they were specifically talking about the collapse of capitalism. They very specifically asked how to control people once all of their money was worthless. And being on the outside looking in, seeing not just the stuff that Wall Street bets were doing and why they were doing it, but how Wall Street was reacting to it, something occurred to me. Wall Street still thinks it's fighting the Cold War. Wall Street is stuck in the mentality of the Cold War. Literally stuck. A lot of the people who are big players in Wall Street right now are either people who are holdovers from the Cold War or are people who are the ideological descendants of people from the Cold War. And that mindset explains a whole hell of a lot about how they function. That's how Wall Street justifies its rampant destruction. Not just environmental destruction, not just financial destruction, but human destruction. They're fighting a war that ended before most of us were even born. They are preparing for a disaster that will never come. Wall Street is an apocalypse cult, and that's why attacking the money worked. Because to these people, the idea of burning goods that you might need for something else is inconceivable. That's why your survival is unimportant. To them, you are the chittering masses, barely even human. Wall Street sees you the same way that Mike Cernovich or Tim Pool sees Muslims, the same way that the Westboro Baptist Church sees homosexuality, as a threat that can be triumphed over with enough brute force. And here's the thing that I realized while I was writing this. If this is the case, and I think I've made a pretty good case for why it is, then it is the moral responsibility of any person of good conscience to annihilate Wall Street, as it is now. The only way that Wall Street is going to stop is if they're stopped by people on the inside, or if they burn themselves to ashes, like so many other apocalypse cults after the fall of the Soviet Union. And sweeping their legs out from under them is certainly more humane than letting them burn themselves down, like fucking Waco. And if I can press that simile a little further, Wall Street is not Waco. Wall Street is David Koresh, and the rest of the world is Waco. If Wall Street burns, the world burns. So yeah, I guess the title of this video isn't just a funny pun, it's an instruction. Stonk harder. Well, that's another essay done. I've said all I mean to say about that, at least for now. I am all sayed out. Regular links are in the underbar. That's my Ko-Fi. If you want to see me have more than 23 cents in my bank account, don't feel obligated to send me money. I'm going to keep doing these whether or not I get paid for it. But I am really hoping I can get my computer back in working order so I can make better quality videos. This is important to me, and doing it well is important to me. Also, I could use money for groceries. That would also be cool. I have a Curious Cat link down there. Don't go there. I need my computer to access it. I have my Twitter down there where I'm goofing off, although I don't think I've been on there as much as I usually am. I have at least 6 fully scripted essays that I've written in the past couple of weeks, so I have no idea what I'm going to be doing next. I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to make that lengthy reply to the entire GOP video that I wanted to make, so I don't know. But yeah, until we get there, take care of yourselves, alright?